Hey guys, Columbus Models here, and we have a brand new video here of the Airfix 1/72nd scale Boulton Pool Defiant Mark 1. I've heard quite a few good things about this kit being a more recent kit, and it is a subject that I do quite enjoy. So the kit itself looks very good, the inside, not too much flash, no molding problems, sprue gates, anything like that, so I think we're looking pretty good on this one. I definitely can't wait. The kit comes with two camo schemes. You have a Daylight Fighter one from number 264 Squadron, based out of Suffolk. You also get markings for a Night Fighter version from Squadron 151. I've decided this is the camo scheme we're going to go for today. I've never done a Night Fighter, so why not give it a go. The Defiant, built by Boulton Paul, was designed as a single-engine turreted fighter/interceptor. One of only two turreted fighters designed in the war, the other one being the very, very bad Blackburn Rock. At the start of the war, the Defiant was actually reasonable at shooting down bombers. That was until the fighter escort showed up. By then, the weaknesses of the Defiant were revealed. At first, the BF-109 pilots thought that the Defiant looks very similar to the Hawker Hurricane, and when lining up behind them for an attack, would have been very surprised to find four 303 machine guns firing back at them. However, they quickly learnt to attack the Defiant from the front, as it did not have any forward-firing machine guns, and although the Defiant had the same 1030 horsepower Rolls-Royce Merlin 3 engines found in both the Hawker Hurricane and Supermarine Spitfire, it lacked any significant speed or maneuverability required for dogfighting. It did, however, move into the Night Fighter role very easily, with 13 squadrons equipped with the Defiants. However, by mid-1942, they were replaced with better performing Bristol Beaufighters and de Havilland Mosquitoes. They eventually spent the rest of the war as gunnery trainers, target tugs, air-sea rescue, and electronic countermeasures. So, as always with all aircraft models, we start with painting the cockpit. Here I'm just using a dark green. I tried to replicate interior green as much as possible, but I just did not have the colours to work with it, so I just went with a generic dark green. I do prefer hand painting cockpit interiors. I just find I've got a bit more control with it over using an airbrush, especially when it comes to all the fiddly little pieces like control panels and all those kind of things. So for painting the interior, I was also using Tamiya lacquer paints. They thin out a lot easier, and I just prefer working with lacquers over acrylics. Don't know why, it's just a preference I have. I think they're a bit more forgiving when you make a mistake, just for wiping them out using white spirits or anything. And starting again, I just find it's much easier. Once all the interior was painted, I gave everything a liberal wash with Tamiya dark brown wash, just to try and bring out some of the details. The video doesn't show it too well, but all those panel lines and whatnot did come out pretty well. So I will say for this Airfix kit, everything was going together pretty well. I have been very hit and miss with a lot of Airfix, and it was quite welcome for this one to fit together so well, considering that the last project I'd worked on before this one was an Airfix. It was the Arado AR196. However, that one was a 1966 mold with no new tooling, so it would be considered a vintage model. Really struggled putting that one together, whereas this one is a much newer model and everything just went together like a breeze. This one was very enjoyable to actually build. The one interesting thing I did find out about the Defiant was the piece I'm putting in right now. You'll find that the guns sit either side of it when the turret is facing backwards, what that piece actually does is when the turret rotates round, it actually drops down to accommodate for the guns to move past it, and when the guns go past, it props back up. Just thought that was quite a nice detail to find out about, and kind of makes sense when the more you think about it. Now it's time to put the turret together, and this one went together like the rest of the aircraft very easily. And I will say, even for this scale, the details for the turret interior were actually very nice. Now with all the small details put together and the bulk of the work done, time to prime and start painting. So as I said before, I decided to do the Night Fighter all black camo. I haven't done a Night Fighter before, so I figured I'll try a few new things on this aircraft and see if they work. But I'll let you guys decide whether it worked or not. So one of the things I wanted to try was pre-shading as opposed to post-shading. I never tried any shading before, actually, so this was purely experimental. I know some of you will probably watch this and think, what the hell is he doing? And I was actually thinking the same, to be honest. But I figured I'll just give it a go, and if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, I'm going to be painting it all black anyway, so it's easy enough to hide. So the main idea I had was to paint white through the center and raised edges of all the panels, and then cover the whole thing in black, so you'd have a slightly lighter black through the middle and darker around the edges of the panels. Again, no idea if this is going to work or not. Just going to have to wait and find out. So now it's time to paint the whole thing black and see if my pre-shading idea actually worked. So at the moment all you can really see is a slight difference in the, surface of the panels, so it's not really looking like it's working at the moment, but I am not really holding my breath. This is just more of an experiment of, let's see if it works. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm not actually too fussed about it. It was worth the trial and error. So as you can see, that experiment didn't really work, but I wasn't holding my breath on it, so let's try experiment number 2, which is, from here you can't really see any panel line or details or anything like that. However, using a traditional dark wash on a black aircraft won't really work that well, so we're going to try a light grey panel liner and see how that works. But first, before we do that, we're going to need do a little bit of experimentation on a few things. So the main thing I want to test out is between two varnishes. I have both a clear gloss and a clear matte, and I want to see which one runs panel liner or thinned oil paints better than the other. So at the moment I've painted up these two spears from a Wellington that I did, and I've sectioned them off, one with matte paint, one with matte varnish, one with gloss varnish, and we're going to see what happens. We've also done two engine nacelles just to see how they worked around raised lines as well as recessed lines. So we're going to try with the matte varnish first, and I wasn't sure about matte varnish because it does have a very grippy sort of surface to it. It's not as slippery or frictionless as gloss, but it's worth giving it a go because I'm going to do the rest of the model at the end in a matte varnish. So I want to just see if I can get away with using one varnish or whether I'd need to use two. So you can see with the matte varnish the capillary action isn't that much, it doesn't go far. Although I did have to rework this oil paint because it was a little bit thicker than it should have been, but you can see it doesn't really flow too well. It wants to grip the surface more. And especially around the raised lines, around raised sections it doesn't really flow that well. It needs a lot of teasing and a lot more paint put onto it. So matte varnish is not looking pretty good at the moment, but we'll need to compare it against the gloss varnish. You'll see the gloss varnish does flow a lot easier. The capillary action goes a lot further than the matte varnish. So this one's looking pretty good at the moment. It's just the way it flows a lot easier and goes right into gaps. It's a lot better. I think we're going to go with the gloss varnish on this one, just from this initial test. It is, however, precedented with me actually getting my thinned oil paint right. Don't want it too thick or too thin. So there's a lot to do, but the gloss varnish definitely helps a lot with it. You'll also notice around the raised lines it just flows a lot easier and a lot better. So I'm going to end up doing gloss varnish to allow for the pin wash to go through, and then after that we'll be doing a matte varnish just to seal everything together, protect it. I guess the third experiment, I guess you could call it, on this aircraft would be the actual colour of the pin wash itself, whether it be either realistic, or if I'm not going to go with realistic, decent in an artistic sort of way. It's really, the third experiment is just to see how it actually works, how it looks and whatnot. So, but I think it's working at the moment. So I think we're going to do a light grey pin wash over the whole aircraft, just so we can actually see some of the details. It might not be 100% realistic, but I think it's going to look good either way. So, and I prefer to look good over realism. If realism doesn't, you can't see anything. So yeah. Now that we've let the oil paint settle for a while and let the terps evaporate, we're just going to use some more terps and a paintbrush to just wick away the excess. I'm also interested to see if it leaves any residue on the black, as it will change the colour of the black, and by the looks of it, it's actually turning more of a lighter grey colour, so we don't want that. So here's the results of the tests. Gloss definitely beats varnish for pin washes, and the light grey works pretty well to show details on a black surface, so I think we can call that a successful experiment. I hope to hell it works with the actual aircraft. So now you get to watch what is probably the more satisfying parts of a model, the actual pin wash itself. It's one of my favourite parts of the process, and The way I'm doing it is just using a thin oil paint and a thin brush, pushing the paint into the grooves, letting it flow through, and then using a cotton bud to quickly wick away and brush the excess oil paint away from the panel. I found this is the best way for it instead of using extra white spirits or anything like that. Just being quick with the cotton bud just really helps. I did find the underside of the aircraft the best place for doing this pin wash, as there are a lot of grooves for panel lines and flaps and all that kind of stuff, so this is definitely the best part of the model, and it does show the light grey pin wash works very well. It might not be, again, 100% realistic, but I'm going for more artistic license on this one. Once the aircraft was fully pin washed, I set it aside to let it dry for a bit and decided to get the rest of the small details done, namely the propeller, the landing gear, and a few other bits and pieces I had missed. Trying to put the landing gear together, and I had a little bit of a difficulty putting it together, just some fiddly parts that are a bit difficult for me to grab without some tweezers, but overall it turned out pretty good. Once all of that was done, all I needed to do was mask up the wheel wells and paint them with a interior green that I tried to mix up. Similar with the cockpit, didn't quite get it right, but yeah, it's close enough for me. Then once it was all dried, you get to watch the satisfying part of removing the masking tape. I decided I like this bit quite a bit, and I figured you guys might enjoy watching it too. Could be wrong, but oh well. At this point, all I had left to do was to just paint minor details like the landing wheel struts, the canopies for the turret and cockpit, both of which I painted without any masking, just a paintbrush, paint, and a very steady hand, of which I found I don't have. And then after that, the last bit was just doing the decals, and I can call it finished. And with the last decal put in place, we can call this one finished. This was a really fun build. I actually quite enjoyed this, the experimentation and trying a whole lot of new things. I try and do a new thing with every model that I build, so this one was definitely no exception. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys follow me on my Instagram, which is Columbus Models, same as this channel. And I can't wait to bring you the next video. The next video, I can tell you, is going to be quite an exciting one. It is definitely one for me. So until then, I hope you guys take care, and I think we should cue the dramatic ending.